Good afternoon. In this session, we're going to have fun with our acrylic paints while we explore composition. And composition is how we arrange the elements on the page. In a previous class, when we played around with negative shape painting, we made splatters all over the place. And then when that was dry, we created a shape around the splatters. So the splatters were just arbitrary. We weren't really thinking about how we wanted all of our colors arranged on the page. We just made marks willy-nilly all over the place in a very intuitive way. But when we consider composition, there are many schools of composition and composition techniques. So I'm just going to cover one of the most popular, most easily digestible ones today. But before we get into that, what I want to do is prep some papers, and let's paint some papers because we will be using them in our composition exercise coming up. So I may have asked, I think I asked you to bring some different kind of papers. I have some plain white paper. I also have some old book pages. This is an Italian American dictionary paperback I picked up at some flea market. And you know what's great is if your library has a book sale, usually on the last day of the book sale, it's, fill a bag for $1, or they're giving away books for free. That's where I find so many cool printed pages, like music and maps. Every road maps are always fun. And even the legend or the index on the back of the map creates an interesting texture. So what I want to do is start, don't do that, is start marking up some of our papers. We can, of course, use a brush. And I'm just going to, to get started, I'm going to squirt out some paint. I have a paper palette for when I want to use this down here. For when I want my paint to be thick, and that's coming out like, that's like a blob that's got 3 dimension to it. If I want my paint to be runny and I add water to it, I want to use a palette or a cup that has a little bit of a well, because if your paper palette pages get really wet, there's no lip and it's going to drip all over the floor. And as we know, acrylic paint stains. So I can start, and I'm just going to put this up here for now. That's just little paper. Is it going to stay up there? I might have to tape it. What do I do with my tape? I'll clip it. I'll clip. It's closer. And I can just start by, where's my rag? And I can just, make marks on the paper like this with my brush, just banging the paper. Or you could remember last week we used bubble wrap. You can put some bubble wrap on it and make dots. We're creating textures. You can have more than one color going on at once. I'm just demonstrating the technique for you. Tissue paper or tissue holder. This I might have to apply to the edge. And I'm just pouncing it around the edge because this will make great circles. And I think it would do better if I did it, if it was flat and I was standing over it. But here you can get the sense of the circles. And I'll bring this closer so you can see it. So see, I'm just upsetting the surface by adding color. And you can also use, let me grab a couple more of these tools. I should be standing up to show you this because I normally don't paint sitting down. If you have a stencil, stencils are fun also. Let me put out a different color now, just to get a blue going here. And I always need my pliers. Get the caps off. There we go. Don't use your teeth, whatever you do. And I'm just going to squirt out some blue on my palette paper. There's my blue. And if you use a stencil, I like to use these makeup sponges. And you can get these, Target or CVS or Amazon, and these little wedges, because when we use a stencil, and you can make your own stencil, but these I got at the art supply store. I prefer the stencils made by Stencil Girl. Mary Beth Shaw is an artist who founded this stencil company. So I like to take the sponge and pounce it in the paint. So I get a pretty even distribution on the sponge and get it all juiced up, because now I'm going to take my stencil and I'm just going to pounce through it. And I don't have to do it all over. I'm turning my sponge so I don't get the same mark everywhere. And then you lift it up and you've got a pattern developing through the stencil. And I might turn the stencil. And do some more pouncing. Like that. And maybe mix my blue and green together. Now, I also want to talk about a limited palette. I would prefer today if you used a limited palette, meaning don't use every single color in the rainbow. We want to use opposite colors on the color wheel for our composition and our focal point, which I'll get to in a minute. And for our background, I would like us to use our analogous colors, which are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, like blues and greens, or yellows and oranges, or things like that. I'm using blues and greens for my background papers today. And then my focal point is going to be in the red family. And what I want to show you an example of is this little painting. See, it's on a black background. It's just a leaf, no big deal. But let me take my hand away. Now look, when you add that opposite color, this hot pink fuchsia, your eye goes whoom, right there. That's your focal point, where the opposite colors on the color wheel meet each other. That becomes the focus of the painting. So there are compositions that may meander all over the place, where your eye kind of wanders all over the painting, almost like a Jackson Pollock painting, where there's a lot of motion and a lot of wandering. Or there could be a painting such as this, where your eye is directed to a focal point, not only by color, but the lines of the painting lead to the focal point as well. So that's what we're doing with the focal point. So I'm just going to let this paper rest. And now I'm going to do another one. Oh, okay, this one. This one I was playing around, I think one of the very first weeks we did this. And what I want to do here is get more drippage going on. And I love my drippage. So what I want to do is get my get my paint really watery, because if it's too thick, it will not drip. You need the paint to be very runny. And I want to show you another trick you can do. Okay, I'm adding a lot of water to this. I want to get my little pipette and a straw, a drinking straw, which I just had, but I think I put it in the kitchen with my seltzer. Okay, and my little, where are all my pipettes? All right, I have one over here. Okay. Sorry, I had this all together and then I moved everything. Okay, so this is a regular drinking straw. This is a pipette. This is a little, like a turkey baster. Basically, it's got a suction end where it's going to slurp up the paint. So there's a couple things we can do with our runny paint. We can do some drips, create some drips down our page. Or we could take a page, take some paper and apply some of like a pool of paint. It needs to be runnier, 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 runnier. And this is where like a fluid acrylic might have been my better choice here. I just brought out my tubes today. But let me add more water to this. And put this down so you can see it. So I've got this really runny ink with my little baby, my little Barbie turkey baster here. And I'm going to throw a drop on my paper, squirt some out. Yeah, there we go. And with my straw, oh, got all over me. It's creating some really cool, like spidery. So that's another way to create your effects or to get some cool effects without using a paintbrush. Last week, we played around with Q-tips. You could even bring some of those into action again. Oh, and the straw. Hey, the straw is going to make little polka dot or little outlines of circles for me, but it needs a flat surface. Yeah. It's not going to do so well unless there's something firm underneath it. Yeah. I'm rolling my straw around, creating different textures, rolling it through. Oh, rolling it through some of those little rivers creates interesting little tributaries. So this is where you get to know your materials when you just start having fun with them. And now I've got this map all marked up with drips and pours, and I'm going to let that go aside. So I have this map or this piece of map that I did before. Now, I also want to share with you that, again, you don't always have to use brushes. This green needs to be darker. So I need a heavier, I want a heavier color. So I'm just going to add more paint to here and try and get it of a certain viscosity that drips, but is not super translucent. But it's nice sometimes when we have a translucent paint and we're going over the book pages, like in this case, where my paint is really runny, you can see through to the type on the page, and where it's more opaque, you cannot. So that creates a cool texture as well. And they also make tools called the Catalyst. It's like a rubber thing. You could use that, and it has like different edges. I think they have this at Thompson's. You can get it online. This will cut through your paint and make interesting textures. My paint got too dry there. Let me try it on a different piece to show you. Oh, maybe I'll show you on this one. I want kind of a thick paint here. So I'm gonna do, like bring another circle into it. Oh, I like some of this dry brush. And let's see if I can get my Catalyst to work and make a texture on here. Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. See how it makes, and then I could even scrape it off. Scrape the paint off. But a Catalyst, you could use one of those knives that you, here it is, that you frost a cake with. That's like a pastry knife. Or maybe this isn't a grapefruit knife, is it? I don't know. But let's try this on another piece of paper. That's kind of cool. I like that. But this is a little too uniform for me. I'm going to try maybe some green. Let's bring in some green just here where I want to mess it up a little bit. And try and see what this knife is going to do. Oh, yeah. See how now it makes like some stripy marks like that. So we can use these implements, these tools, to help make really cool textures. So I want us to spend a couple minutes making more of these pages in our friendly next door neighbor colors. I'm using blues and greens, even though I was doing it on a background. I'm just going to let this dry because what I want to do our papers, and then while it's drying, we're going to talk about compositions. Let me put this aside and grab another piece of paper. And here again, I have a stencil. And I'm just going to pounce some paint. And this I'm using a runny, transparent paint. So you can see the letters through the stencil. It's all just random. It's, maybe I'll put a little green in there. As I'm just using blues and greens. Okay. So I also want to make a paper now with my contrasting color. So I'm going to grab my red. Oh, there's my pipettes. And a water bottle. Now, if your paint is wet and you're working vertically, so let me go back to, need more room. Let me go back to this. And if my paint is wet enough, sometimes you can squirt it and get more drippage. Oh yeah, see now things are dripping more. The gravity's gonna create more runs. So a water bottle too, but your paint can't be dry. It's still gotta be wet. And when you shoot it up with the water, that's another trick you can do. So I do need this to dry. I need a fan. Where's my fan? I had one. Okay, so now I want to grab, here's my fan. And sometimes I get these battery powered fans that just takes 2 D batteries and it dries your work and it also cools you off in the summer. So I'm just going to let that dry for a minute in front of there. I want to make a paper now with a contrasting color. So maybe I'll go back to the page, just a map. Because see, you might wind up with things like a book page that just have marks like that. Different marks that you make. These are all scraps that I pulled out to use for today. Oh, here, I ripped something off of a poster. Maybe I'll use this because it has the red that I want. And I want to squeeze out some red paint and make some marks on here. I'm just going to use the paint right from the tube, the red paint. I'm not going to mix any color with it. When we use the paint right out of the tube, the term is called alla prima painting, right from the tube. So that brush is pretty dirty. Let me grab another one. Okay, and I'm just using a flat acrylic brush and mixing up my red paint. Okay, and what am I going to do with this? This is the area that I'm not crazy about up here. So maybe I'll paint some bubble wrap. And start marking up this area. Yeah, just making some red dots. And maybe I'll take a little yellow. It's my water, I need more water here, clean water. Clean water. I had a rag somewhere. I guess my smock has become my rag now. And I want a little yellow on my palette. Because now I want to teach you something else, another tool you can use. So I'm just going to add I'm just going to go up here with some yellow. And as we know, yellow is the weakest color on the color wheel. So this is kind of transparent. Let's make some shapes there. Now we all get like these plastic cards, whether it's a hotel key. How many of these AARP cards have I gotten over my lifetime? You can use it to cut into your paint and you can twist it and it makes almost like little pie wedges, depending on how you do it. Let me do it over here where it's a little bit more apparent. If I do it here, let me get more paint on here. Nice, thick paint. And then I take my credit card and I just twist it. And they're like little triangles of a pinwheel or little slices of pizza, no matter how you look at it. And that also can be cascading through your page. And you can take the excess paint and scrape it around to make interesting. So this is just twisting a card around. And you can wind up with effects like that, just cutting into the paint. And these are cutting into the paint with the side of the card. And this is wiping the card off on the paper. So you get a lot of different things. This is all experiment. And this is what I hope you would do with your art supplies, is experiment with them and play with them to get different effects. This little piece of paper is begging for some kind of attention here. So maybe I'll just put a little, I'll just bounce a little paint on there. Just to make it a little bit more interesting, add a couple little dots and let that rest. So while your paint is drying, oh, I made a mess over here. I'll deal with that later. While your papers are drying, I want to talk about composition and how we arrange things on the page. So the easiest composition, because there's so many, I think I have a PDF on different arrangements, but today I want to talk about a classic composition that you would learn in art school. It's called the golden section. And you really can't go wrong with this. It's like a goof-proof way of doing a composition. And I'm going to use paint. Sometimes I use a marker, but basically what you do is you determine, usually, you know, with a pencil, if you want to get your ideas going, you make a hashtag or a tic-tac-toe grid, depending on how old you are. You'll relate to one or the other. So you've got two sets of lines. So it's either tic-tac-toe or hashtag. Where they meet, you're going to choose one of those intersections, whether it's this one, this one, this one, or this one. One of them is going to be the golden section of your painting, meaning that the composition or the focal point is going to be at one of these intersections. The rest of the painting will be designed to bring the viewer's eye to that spot. Now, notice that one of our choices is not smack in the middle. It's been determined that most people, most viewers find that boring. To have something off center, to have it asymmetrical is much more pleasing to the eye. So pick a golden section, and you're going to do your little thing. And what I'm going to work on today, where did I put it? I'm always putting things down. Okay. I have an artboard here. It's just like a canvas board where I find if I'm going to be doing a painting where I am applying elements to it like collage, or I'm going to be pouncing, I don't really want to use a canvas per se, because on canvases like this one, where you bounce, the canvas is bouncy. So if you were to do some kind of mark making along the edge, where the wood is going to react differently to the stenciling or the pouncing or whatever you're doing than where the where there's no wood behind it. So that's why I like to work on something that's firm. So whether it is a cereal box that you gessoed, or a piece of cardboard, or I did do a painting of a Ouija board that on a Ouija board that I gessoed, and it was great because it was really sturdy, and I thought it had like spirits in it, so I knew it would render a good painting, and the painting sold. So what I'm going to do is split the screen to show you. I'm going to share the screen to show you a painting that I did, and I don't have it here because it's being framed. This was all done with papers that, not that one, this one, yeah, that were painted, and you can see the golden section. It's like in the lower right. I chose this area to be my golden section, where my background was all the blues and greens, and my focal point was the fiery color of the red and the orange, and the orange circle also lends itself to say, look here, this is where I want you to look. This is the focal point. So all of these papers and elements used were all painted papers that were then used to construct this composition. So now I have another one, because I'm just trying to let these papers dry. In the fall, when I start teaching live again, then, wait a minute. Not that one. Go back. Then we'll have more time, but right now we only have an hour. So this one, okay, this one too. My background was all like greens, and my flower, again, I guess I like that area of the lower right. I repeated that. And now I have gone on to change that because I didn't like it. So I really messed up, because now what I did is I painted over it, but then I didn't like that. And so I glued this down, and I said, oh, now I really don't like it. But if this something like this happens, what we want to do is merge the foreground and the background, because this just looks so pasted on there. And one way to help us get our elements to merge in a painting is to join them with another layer over it. And what I'm going to do is show you what I mean by that. And I'm going to use, oh, I lost that stencil. I'm going to use the stencil again just to bring in my point. I've got blues and greens, that's my color story. And I'm just going to randomly go over like the intersection and maybe some random areas. So I kind of get that the seam, it will take more work, but see how like here with the stencil, I was able to try and get the fields to merge where they don't look so separate like they do here. So there's a way we can bring our elements in together. So what I want to do now, how am I doing for time? Okay. You might have to finish this when your paper's dry. Let me just flip this over so I'm dealing with, oh, I'm not even dealing with from another class. Give me a white background. That's basically a white background. Come on now. Here we go. I'm going to put this up here. And as I established my golden section, where's my pencil? So I made my, and it doesn't have to be exact. There's my hashtag, my tic-tac-toe. And I decided I'm gonna mix it up this time. Instead of the lower right, I'm gonna do the upper left as my focal point. So now what I want my other elements to do is guide me to that focal point. So now I actually have a section. This is one section. This is another section. This is another section. This is another section. I'm going to add my focal point at the end. So let me show you what do I mean. I'm just going to delineate this section by quickly marking it off with some paint. And it's just a rectangle. That's just one of the sections. And then I'll have another one up here. And then I'll have, and I'm trying to keep the colors somewhat the same and somewhat different enough so you can see my different sections. I'm staying with blues and greens and yellows just because I don't want any deep contrast. So now I've got 4 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all different shapes. They're all rectangles, but they're all different. So now what I want to do is take a painted paper. Let's see if I have one that's big enough because I'm working big here. Did I make one that's big enough? Maybe I didn't. But this will be one. This will work. This one will work here. Maybe it'll work here. Maybe it'll work here. Maybe it'll work there. And I even kind of like the fact that it's got the legend of the map and it's got a ripped edge. Remember how I told you to bring a glue stick? We're going to use a glue stick. And this Uhu, U-H-U, many artists find this to be the most desirable glue stick because it does dry transparent and I like to use a glue stick when I audition my papers. They're just going through that audition. They're not committed yet. When I decide I love my elements the way they are and I get it all down there, then I'll glaze it over with matte medium to make it super stick. But right now you want some movability perhaps. So I'm going to put this right here just for now. And that will occupy that section. When we make a painting, it's a lot of back and forth, making judgments along the way, pushing things back, trying to bring things forward. Now I have another little piece of paper that I painted, and I do like that ripped edge look. So I'm just gonna rip two sides of it. And those two sides, oh, somebody's at my door. I can't, I'm not taking the door. Let me just tell him I'm doing a class. I'm getting a Zoom class. I can't talk now. I'm on Zoom. Yeah.
I know you want a sticker.
I think I have it. Yeah, I have that. He showed it to me. My husband wants to talk to you. I think he sent you a message or voicemail. Yeah, whatever. You guys work it out. Thanks so much, Chris. I am so sorry. I woke up to water all over my basement. My hot water heater died. So I have the greatest plumber. He was here. He put in a new water heater. Anyway, I'm sorry for that interruption, but I knew it was going to happen. Something always happens when I'm Zooming. Somebody comes to the door. So now I'm just gluing this, and I'm going to put that one. Do I want it there? Maybe I'll put it there. And my book page, it's running sideways. I don't really care that you can't read the map and you can't read the book page. That doesn't bother me. So now I would just want to fill in some pieces over here. Oh, last week, remember I was practicing leaves when I was printing on this printed paper? I found this really cool paper. Oh, I got paint all over that. I found this really cool book, again, at like a library sale. These are all Arabic geometrical patterns. And I don't know if somebody like actually drew these or if they were all computer generated, but this is so cool for somebody, you could even start coloring this, but I like to rip out these pages and use them as a pattern background, like if I'm going to be using something like that. So maybe, just maybe, I'll rip this. And I might want to go around that leaf. And I might want to cut this one just for contrast, just to have different edges. It's interesting to have different edges in your painting. So that I might bring here, or do I want to put that here? Maybe I'll put, because I want it. See, if I were to put this here, the motion's going to lead you off the painting. We want the motion to bring you into the painting. So we want it to lead you into, oh, stay there. So I want to lead you into the painting. So how did I have that? Is it like that? Yeah. So maybe I'll just glue this down. And I'm just tacking it down with my glue stick and putting it there. Well, that wasn't super gluey now, was it? There. And now I need one more thing there. And where are all my little samples that I made? All right, maybe I'll bring this one in. This has some blues and a little bit of purple. All right. Maybe this way. Okay, so now I've got my different quadrants of my piece, my composition of my golden section. So even with these 4 painted papers here, we still get a feeling that of that golden section, almost like a cross where our intersection is. Now, what I might want to do is to make it all friendly and to get everything to work together. I might want to do a wash over it or a veil of very transparent ink. So we want it, or paint. We want to use really wet paint so we can see through it. I want to be able to see, I want to be able to see what's going on with the texture and the designs. But I'm also pulling the whole thing together by doing a blue veil over the whole piece that unifies it. It's just a veil of color. And again, this is very wet and very transparent. Now, there's a couple things that I see here where, see, now I've created a cohesion by putting a light blue veil over everything. But now there are a couple things that annoy me, like these, almost like a border around some of these. So I want to think about how I can join this. So let me show you. They make all kinds of acrylic paint. They also make acrylic markers, which are like, they're like a paint marker. You can hear it rattle because it's mixing up the paint. And they also make like these little quart bottles. So this is very fluid acrylic paint. I'm running out of room here. So I think I want to, let's see if I can remedy this. See how much trouble I can get into. I want to join, I want to join some of this. So I might make some kind of marks that go, come on now, that go across and join some of these borders that I'm just not crazy about. So, and because this isn't super glued down, I'm trying to do this all in an hour. And I'm using this blue as a way to join these different 4 elements together. And I'm just giving it a scribbliness. And when this is dry, I'm going to have to glue it down. But I kind of like the drippage and the spots that this is. Who makes this? This is acrylic paint. Water Bay. Well, they're all water based. This is by Montana. And it's just like a little shaker bottle, a very runny paint. So I just might keep this vertical and let that dry. So what I want to do, because we are approaching the end of the hour, when it's dry is when we're going to think about our focal point. And this is still pretty wet, but what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to rip an area, something circular, to go right in my golden section here to become the focal point. But I want to tell you a little bit about ripping. When you're ripping paper, see how you're going to get an edge that's like white, where it shows the inside of the paper? That will suck up the paint and it will absorb the paint. So if you don't want that to happen, the way to get the crisp edge is to, I don't care if you're right-handed or left-handed, the edge that you pull towards you will not have the white inner core. The edge that you push away from you will have the white inner core, which looks very interesting on many collages. But I just want you to be aware that that white edge, like this white edge there, see what happens? Let me put some paint on it to show you. That paint really absorbs into that raw paper and it will alter the effect. So if you want a crisp edge with no white core, then pull the paper towards you. So I'm just creating like a random shape from this painted paper. And this will become, I think I want to smooth out this corner just a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah, this will become my focal point. And it's not dry yet. So I'm trying to manipulate it without destroying it because it is still kind of wet. And this triangle thing, I want to point right to it. And you, like I said, audition it. Audition your pieces, move them around and see which way you like it best. I kind of think I like it like this. And I'm going to let that dry there. And now I've got a focal point on this painting where I have these sections that are, what's the word, analogous enough or similar enough, but they are different patterns, different paint application, but the cohesiveness is the color. And then the color differentiates our focal point. Now, when all this is dry, I might go back and play around with it and, come up with something like I did before I decided I didn't like it and I painted over. But the other thing you can do is create a whole board for yourself of like-minded colors, of colors that are in the same neighborhood. And you can do this by doing the whole board. This is just a piece of cardboard. This was the back of a pad of either some kind of paper, but I just did a lot of collaging over it. And now what I would do if I want to get a focal point is I would bring
Hold it up again, Katie.
Yeah.
You just hold it up again the way it is now. Thank you.
So you've got different book pages and collage papers. I would want my focal point to be in the red and pink family to really jump out of this. That's why I'm working with a limited palette with you today. So to bring back this idea where the pink is going to make it pop off the page.
Yep. Oh, wait, can I take that picture? I'm sorry. I know I'm ridiculous.
No, no, no,
Hopefully.
do what you gotta do.
It helps me later go back and figure out, oh, I love it. All right. Thank you, Katie.
Sure. The other fun thing that you can bring to it, and then I'm gonna close, because I, one thing leads to the other in my head. Is I don't know if, let me grab this off of the shelf here. I don't know if you have ever heard of washi tape, but washi tape is a paper-based tape that is low tack, but it is so fun for collages. I just picked one out here that is in that blue and green family. And it's so fun to just add to your paintings or your collages. It's low tack, so you can move it. If you want it to be more permanent, I would say put down a glue line of like use a glue stick. I think I just got paint all over my glue stick because this is still wet. But then you can, add the tape and it creates an interesting effect. I don't know if I like that. Can I pull it off? No, I'm going to take the whole paper. All right. Well, I will, I'll make that work somehow when it dries. So I might use it. I might use other ones. I'm going to do something here, but this is not done. But this is done enough to show you the golden section composition today, which was my goal. And I didn't think we were going to finish the painting because this paint doesn't like, it dries too quickly when I don't want it to dry quickly. And it doesn't dry fast enough when I need it to dry quickly. But I will revisit that. I might bring out some air. I might make this more floral by doing something that suggests leaves, because already I have some kind of leaf shape going on there.
Yeah.
Just adding that vertical of the washi tape now has changed everything for me. But that's okay. I keep revisiting my paintings. I put them away and look at them later to see what they need. A painting is only done when you think it looks good. So that's it for today. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions or anything that you want to discuss before we end our session today. Okay.
You pulled up our final thing again, even though I know it's not final, our temporarily final, what you did behind you.
Let me see. Well, I did something to my screen. Oh, there I did. This one?
Yes, please. And can you back it up a little bit? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Will we get an email with this included?
Yes, you'll get the email with the video link included. Good. And I also want to find my PDF on different compositions. Thank you. The word escaped me because there are so many. Another very popular one, really quick, is called Cantilevered, where you have a whole lot of stuff going on one side of the painting, and then over on the other side you have like one little thing going on. So it's balanced, where you might have, this might be like a different color or very striking, but being that it's a different color kind of balances the fact that a whole lot of stuff is going on over here, and it's balanced by a little tiny thing going on over there. That's called Cantilevered. So I will send you I will find it, the PDF of all kinds of different compositions that you can play with in your paintings and in your artwork. So your work is more interesting and it's just not like all over the place, which is a composition in and by itself. But I encourage you to keep going with your creative journey and have fun with it. I know Marcy is. I hope everybody else is too.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking my class.
Thank you.
And how long will how long will the videos last, or do they
They go
are
on
they-
my YouTube channel, so
They
you
go to
can
YouTube.
always find them there. The
Perfect,
YouTube channel is Katie Goldberg Art. So
perfect.
there's a whole bunch of other classes there too, because I record all my classes. So
Okay, thank you. This has been so much fun. Thank
I
you.
am so glad.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very,
so
very
much.
Katie, will you send around a note or have Scarsdale send it to, old students like us now so that when you do when you settle on the timing for the fall?
Yes, I have to submit all those proposals to them this week. So once I know that things are definite, I'll get in touch.
Awesome. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
girls. Hope to see you
Bye.
again in the future.
Okay,
Thanks.
great.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.